Before there were Grammys for female rappers, before there was mainstream recognition or corporate sponsorships, there was a teenage girl from Queensbridge with nothing but a sharp tongue, fearless energy, and a mic. Her name was Lolita Shante Gooden, but the world would come to know her as Roxanne Shante, one of the first and fiercest voices in hip-hop history. Now, to understand how big her presence was, you've got to go back to the early 80s, a time when hip-hop was still growing in the streets. There were no massive tours or social media buzz, just block parties, boom boxes, and MCs battling on the corners for bragging rights. Out of those same streets, from one of the toughest housing projects in America, Queensbridge, came a young girl who refused to be ignored. Roxanne was born in November of 1969. She grew up surrounded by the raw rhythm of city life, breakbeats in the park, graffiti on the walls, and rappers going head-to-head just to earn respect. She wasn't just watching, she was participating. By age 10, she was already rhyming, stepping up to grown men in freestyle battles, and walking away with respect. Her mother was her biggest supporter, always pushing her to believe in her voice, even when people doubted her. She started going by Roxanne around her early teens, a name that would soon become legendary. She joined local battles, crushed competition after competition, and started making a name for herself around Queens. People would say, "That little girl can rap." And not just rap, she could out-rap the dudes. Then came the moment that changed everything. In 1984, a hip-hop group named UTFO released a track called Roxanne, Roxanne. It was a playful song about a woman named Roxanne who kept turning down their advances. It became a hit, one of those catchy early hip-hop records that everybody played. But what happened next? Nobody could have predicted. Producer Marley Marl, who lived in the same Queensbridge housing complex, decided to create an answer record, a response from Roxanne herself. He called up young Shante, who was only 14 at the time, and told her to freestyle a comeback verse. She didn't hesitate. She grabbed the mic and fired off sharp rhymes, flipping the original song on its head. The result was Roxanne's Revenge. That record was pure attitude, funny, fierce, and fearless. She roasted UTFO like it was nothing. You could feel the confidence in her delivery. It wasn't polished, but it was real. The streets ate it up. Local radio started spinning it, and before long, Roxanne's Revenge became a hit, selling over 250,000 copies in just a few weeks. But that was just the start. Her response triggered what the culture now calls the Roxanne Wars. Dozens of rappers across the country started making their own Roxanne songs, over 100 in total. You had the real Roxanne, Roxanne's grandmother, Roxanne's doctor, the list goes on. It was chaotic, hilarious, and historic. And at the center of it all was one young teenage girl, the real Roxanne Shante, who had sparked one of the first rap beefs in history and changed hip-hop forever. She wasn't just a participant in the culture, she was shaping it. Think about it. In 1984, a 14-year-old girl from Queens was out here going viral before the internet even existed. She'd gone from battling in the park to being one of the most talked about names in rap. Soon after, Roxanne became part of the Juice Crew, a collective of legendary MCs and producers that included Marley Marl, Cool G Rap, MC Shan, Big Daddy Kane, and Biz Markie. They were based in Queensbridge too, a place that would later produce names like Nas, Mobb Deep, and Cormega. The Juice Crew wasn't just a rap crew, they were a movement. And Shante was their first lady, young, gifted, and unfiltered. She released more singles through the mid to late 80s, Queen of Rocks, Have a Nice Day, and Go On Girl. Each one carried that signature bite, the sarcasm, the bravado, the fearlessness. She didn't rap like she was trying to fit in. She rapped like she was setting the rules. In 1989, she released her debut album, Bad Sister. The record showed a more grown-up Shante, still confident, still clever, but with a new polish and awareness. She rapped about strength, self-worth, and standing tall as a woman in a man's game. Songs like Big Mama made it clear. She was no longer that teenage battle MC. She was a grown woman claiming her space. Then in 1992, she dropped The Bitches Back. The title alone said it all. She wasn't here to be quiet or play it safe. This album reflected years of struggle and growth. She'd seen the ups and downs of the industry. She'd seen how women were treated differently, how contracts were written to trap artists, and how fame could fade fast. But she was still here, rapping, surviving, and calling out the truth. Behind the mic, though, life wasn't easy. She became a mother at a young age and had to balance motherhood with fame. The industry didn't always treat her fairly, financially or creatively. She's spoken about being underpaid, underpromoted, and overlooked. But even with all that, she kept pushing. Roxanne Shanté's strength wasn't just in her rhymes, it was in her resilience. And when she stepped away from music in her mid-20s, she didn't disappear. She reinvented herself. She went back to school, earned her education, and started mentoring younger artists. She began working with at-risk youth, helping them find purpose through art and self-expression. For her, success wasn't about fame anymore. It was about impact. Decades later, her story got the recognition it deserved. In 2017, Netflix released Roxanne, a biopic about her life, starring Shanté Adams as Shanté and Mahershala Ali as her mother's boyfriend. The film put a spotlight back on her, not just as a rapper, but as a survivor, a pioneer, a woman who fought through personal and professional battles to become an icon. And that's the thing about Roxanne Shanté. Her story represents more than hip-hop. It represents courage. It represents a young girl refusing to be silenced in a time when female MCs were barely given a chance. She showed that you could be smart, funny, strong, and unapologetically yourself. When you listen to Roxanne's Revenge now, almost 40 years later, it still hits. You can still feel that same spark, that energy of someone who's fighting for respect in real time. And when you look at artists like Nicki Minaj, Cardi B, Rhapsody, or Lotto, you're looking at careers that exist partly because Roxanne Shanté kicked the door open first. She made it okay to talk back, to battle, to own your voice. She was the prototype for every female MC who came after, the one who showed that being a woman in hip-hop didn't mean you had to play nice. You could battle, you could dominate, you could win. Today, Roxanne Shanté continues to represent hip-hop with grace and honesty. She hosts shows on Rock the Bells Radio, keeping that classic era alive, and she's still mentoring young artists, especially women, who are finding their way in the same industry she once shook up. She's proof that real pioneers don't always get their flowers when they should, but their influence never fades. Her voice, her story, her courage still echo every time a woman grabs a mic and refuses to back down. Roxanne Shanté wasn't just the first female rapper to battle on records. She was the first to win. She stood tall when the world expected her to stay quiet. And in doing so, she gave hip-hop something priceless: balance. So if you're ever scrolling through playlists and you see Roxanne's Revenge, hit play. Let that beat knock. Let her voice come through. And remember where all this started. A teenage girl from Queensbridge with a pen, a purpose, and a point to prove. And if you felt that story, if you respect the foundation she built, hit that like, smash that subscribe, and keep the culture alive. Because this right here, this is what hip-hop was built on. Truth, struggle, and the voice of a girl named Roxanne Shanté.